Buckle up for this one, folks. Cigna, major U.S. health insurance company, has been accused of using AI instead of doctors to deny your claims. A class action lawsuit was filed in California last week, alleging that Cigna uses an algorithm called PXDX to automatically deny certain claims. Claims are able to be denied in just 1.2 seconds. One doctor who had worked for Cigna said it takes all of 10 seconds to do 50 denials at a time. The whole reason this class action lawsuit got started was on account of two patients of Cigna, one of which had suspected ovarian cancer, and they ordered an ultrasound and it got denied, so she had to pay over $700 for it, and another patient who automatically was denied a vitamin D level test. And Cigna admits that they use this artificial intelligence algorithm in order to deny these claims. But they say this is just standard practice now, and other insurance companies are doing it as well, and it helps to save money on labor. And when it gets denied by AI, basically you can still get the treatment, but you're going to have to pay for it yourself, even though you're already paying for the health insurance premiums every month. Technically, these medical claims are supposed to get fair consideration by a doctor. But is this possible in just 1.2 seconds average review time per claim?
Holy smokes. Welcome to another episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. I am your co-host today, Jordan Comstock, with me, Naren and Ben. What is going on in the world of insurance? Holy smokes, Ben.
Oh, man, we knew it.
Yes.
We knew it all along.
All along, bro.
Yeah, this is just crazy, right? I mean, can you believe somebody's life is on the line and an AI in less than 1.2 seconds says, sorry, no, can't do.
Sorry, bro. We're not paying. Thanks for paying us, though.
Yeah.
Goodness.
It makes insurance so useless having insurance, but it's the law. We have to have health insurance, otherwise we'll get taxed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there's a conflict of interest now between healthcare and making money off of those people. Now, obviously, we're all capitalists here. All of us listening probably own a practice, so we have to earn our living. But I do think that there is a balance, especially in healthcare, that we need to have. It seems like just to deny for increasing profits seems like there's a conflict there between good quality healthcare and helping patients get the care they need. So interesting times.
Oh yeah, and it seems like a constant battle because insurance carriers have been sued on this issue so many times in the past. I mean, heck, the whole Fair Health Institution was created based upon out-of-network claims being paid out at lower levels or significantly lower levels, or not being covered at all. And it's just surprising to me that these issues keep going on and on and on and on with no one fix, effort, like a piece of legislation that puts an end to all of this. We're hearing about this, of course, today, but this is not news. This has been going on for so long.
Oh, totally. And the fact that it's more than just Cigna, it's I guarantee you it's all insurance companies, getting on this type of bandwagon.
Oh yeah, I can tell you a story real quick. So you guys know Tessina, right? I don't know if you met Tessina and Naren.
Yes.
So it was back in 2015 or 2016 where Tessina's office that she still works at today, she was seeing a consistent denial of claims, certain types of claims from certain types of insurance companies. And it was a pattern that certain types of treatment, in this case, period treatment, none of the period treatments or claims were getting paid the first time around. So she noticed a pattern that she'd had to appeal these claims at least 3 to 4 times before the insurance company overturned them.
Wow.
But after her employer paying for Tessina to appeal those claims for 4 times or more, the value of what you're getting out of that claim is diminished because you're spending extra payroll hours to get that money, right?
Yep.
So they were fed up with this and decided to hire attorneys. And long story short on that, the attorneys came back and said, well, we can't do anything because Utah is it's considered not a right to action state, which means that if you're in network, there's really nothing you can do on these issues, which I never believed. So that was a feedback from the attorneys, like, that's BS. That can't be true. So next step is she went to the insurance commissioner and she was shot down too. The insurance commissioner said, well, you're the only one complaining about this thing. And Tessa's like, no, I'm not. I'm not the only one. It's like, well, you're the only one that we heard of.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So she goes to Facebook.
In the last 10 minutes, probably.
Yeah. So what we learned
Context.
is practices are experiencing these issues, but they don't know who to report these issues to, right? And we thought the
There's
insurance
probably-
commissioner, yeah,
In addition to not knowing that, I would imagine they don't have the right tools to combat them as quickly as the insurance companies do with AI. Almost
right.
seems like we need an AI tool on the practice side to combat it.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
dude, you're thinking of something there that I think might be very
Yeah.
helpful. But when Tessa heard that, I recommended to her, well, get some practices to complain along with you, and she did that. She went to the UDU, Utah Dental United, the Facebook pages, and she got a couple hundred practices that were willing to complain. Went to the commissioners and, hey, I got 200 offices that are ready to complain. Now, where do you want me to have them send the paperwork? And the insurance commissioner was like,
Nice.
number one, we are government. We're not going to give up our lunch hour to do 200 practices. No, they didn't say that. They just said, look, we're not staffed to take that many complaints, so we're going to take your word for it. So let's work on your issue first. And so we followed all the steps. She sent in the EOBs, HIPAA authorization slips from the patients. And the result of the insurance commissioner's audit, because they contacted the insurance companies involved, and they hired their independent dentists to come and review the claims and all that, dentists that are licensed to review claims, that is. And the conclusion of the government at that point was, well, these insurance carriers are violating the Clean Claims Act, right? They're violating the delay tactic provisions in that act. And so they issued citations to these insurance carriers and said, look, you can't do this. You can't auto deny claims. That's a no-no. That's fraud. And you can't delay payment on claims that are clean, right? The one thing I remember is that the insurance commissioner said, the law says if there are no improprieties or defects to claims, then the insurance carrier is responsible for paying the claim on time, right? And yet here they are auto-denying claims as well as delaying payment on claims by, through the denial and the appeal process. So what we learned way back then, which of course became an article that was published in Dental Economics, is that this goes on regularly with insurance plans. And if you fight it on an individual basis, it stops, because to this day, Tessina's practice is not experiencing auto denials. They're not experiencing claims delays.
If
right?
you complain too much, or if you combat it enough, do they just turn that feature off?
They
Is
do.
that what it seems?
So this is something that we learned from Roy Shelburne. Remember, Jordan, when we had him on our other
Roy's
podcast years
excellent.
ago? I don't know if you know him, Darren.
I do. He went to jail, right, Roy?
Yeah, he was hit with a felony for $17,000 of overpayments from insurance companies. I think Medicaid or Medicare was involved.
That's
Not
another
his fault.
ridiculous story. Yeah.
So anyway,
Poor Roy.
I know he's rebounding. I mean, the industry loves him. We love him.
Oh yeah, Roy's an excellent speaker. He's really done well.
So through his research on his issue and how insurance works, because that's what he was so interested in, is how did I get into this mess?
Mm-hmm.
And how does insurance company, how do they do things? So he was the one that shared with Jordan and I that the insurance industry has a shared database for every NPI and every tax ID and every practice address.
Actually sound like the government.
Yeah. Yeah. They literally spy. Well, they don't spy. They build these.
They share data.
Yeah, to share data with other insurance companies. And so when one insurance carrier flags you and says, we got sued by the government because this practice got the insurance commissioner involved, they share that with other insurance companies.
Oh, so you get blacklisted.
You get blacklisted in a good way. And so basically what they do is they probably press a button that says auto denial.
Let them do whatever they want. Yeah.
Don't auto deny for this practice.
Yeah. Because funny thing is that with Tessina's practice, she did this with just a 2 or 3 insurance carriers. But when the first insurance carrier was resolved, that issue was resolved by the insurance commissioner. She noticed that the denials, auto denials from all the other insurance plans, they stopped. almost immediately.
She unlocked utopia. Yeah. That's
So,
interesting.
I
That's
guess
really
I
interesting.
guess I
This-
answered
this-
all the questions for this podcast with that story. Sorry, guys.
No, this is great. So like, what I mean, step one is if you're seeing a lot of denials, like Tess and I did, the first thing you should do is just combat all of them, even though it's going to take some time and energy. And yeah, maybe there is a tool that we need to build that helps practices
Yes.
combat it automatically using AI. But
Yes.
what she did is she went in and she's like, I'm not taking this crap. I'm going to go in and I'm going to combat each of these claims because my patients need this type of care. And it's weird. It's strange that insurance is just denying, right?
Yeah.
I do have a couple of quick questions, if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So just to kind of make sure that I understand. So you're saying this is not a new technique. Of course, they're using AI now, but they have been doing this for ages. And this actually happened to somebody, you know, and there was an article about it. So this is like standard practice, denying claims without even looking at the claims.
So
right?
I one of my former business partners, a dentist, we won't share his name for privacy reasons, but he also is a licensed, what's called a dental consultant. As a dentist, he's licensed to work for an insurance company to review claims. And I asked him, this was back in 2012, 2013. I asked him, it's like, so is this auto denial thing true where insurance carriers auto deny? And he's like, yeah, there's no way. He's like, there's no way I can review all the claims that I'm supposed to review because I have a full-time practice and I only get to review things on Thursdays and Fridays, right? And he says, if I were to guess, the number of claims that I actually get to review is only 2%. That's
holy smokes. Yeah.
And then the computer system just auto denies certain categories of treatment, but also, so they call it auto adjudicate is the language they use on the insurance company side of things.
Yeah.
But he says they auto approve things like preventative, right? Or fillings.
They have parameters that allow.
Yep. So they have a lot of claims. Majority are auto approved, but a good chunk of the larger treatment plans are auto denied, mainly because I can't get, like, none of us can get to them. The insurance plan company doesn't have enough staffing to have an actual doctor look at the claims. So that's the first time it was confirmed to me from an authority that was employed by an insurance carrier that this was going on unofficially, right? We can't use that in a court of law if you see them. It's just a private conversation that he shared with me on these issues. But now it's been, at least, you know, with this whole Cigna issue coming forward, this is probably the first actual case that I've seen since then on this issue.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this is why I like, you know, membership plans and just working directly with a practice from a consumer standpoint, because it's just a simple way to work with dental. Even in the medical industry, you see concierge medicine on the rise, which is similar to like membership plans in dental, where patients pay, you know, a subscription directly to the doctors to get the care you need, because of all this drama and crap that patients are having to go through to just get healthcare in this country. It's really interesting to me that's what we're dealing with right now. So how do we identify that this is happening to a practice, Ben? I don't know if I caught what you said there. If you can recap, like, is it just the cadence of denying that happens in a practice, or like, what have you seen?
Yeah, it's looking at the pattern. In a lot of practices, it's everything perio, right? From scaling root planing to perio maintenance, having issues getting that activated if you're billing that out for the first time, osseous surgery, gingival flap surgery, those things there, insurance carriers typically like to fudge the records, or at least do the auto denial games on those. I think the second, from my experience, is our buildups. And that's even if you put the right wording in your claim, that triggers the buildup to be paid, which is buildup was required for retention of the crown. That's not working most of the time when the insurance carrier has that button saying auto denial clicked on your profile. There's no way of getting around writing really clean narratives, but look for those patterns and look for the types of treatments that are being denied, right? And you want to pay attention to that simply because there are very much apparent patterns that go on in practices, but they're so busy, these offices are so busy that they don't have time to identify or complain about them, right? Or even work on any measures like Cigna worked on to go to the government to try to get some relief.
Man.
So let me ask you this. Tesna is like a 1 in a million, right? I mean, she of course is an expert in a lot of this stuff, and she really is passionate about this. But if I'm like the practice owner, regular practice owner, busy practice, just barely keeping up with all the things I need to do, right? Like, let's say I really suspect that something fishy is going on and I'm getting auto denied. Like, is there anything that you would recommend? Like, for example, is there a community or is there any steps? Like, what would
Resources?
you do, Ben? Yeah, if you're in their shoes.
Yeah, so I'd say contact Tessina. So Tessina, she operates a company called Verus Dental. That's VERUS Dental. They do primarily insurance verifications, but she does consulting. She does coaching on the side, and her process can be duplicated in any practice. So the key is just following those steps. Of course, it does require some time, which is what I recommend investing into, because if you're dealing with small dollar amounts, like $20 balances that insurance carriers are denying, the common thought for most practice owners is, well, it's only $20. Let's just write it off and move on, right? But imagine that $20 being, that particular $20 procedure being auto-denied 300 times a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're dealing with a major revenue loss issue, or an issue where patients are having to pay for those procedures out of pocket when they have insurance, like what that video said, right?
Yeah.
Which makes insurance, makes it totally useless. But yeah, I would contact Tessina, because she does it every day, where she has at least 3 to 4 clients a day that she's coaching on this very issue.
As we come to close this particular episode, Ben, we are going to do a couple of things. We're going to include that video that Ben played at the very beginning, which is pretty much this actual case of Cigna getting sued, a class action lawsuit in California, and somebody had done some investigation and shared all the facts about that case. So we'll include that in the show notes so you can actually watch it, have some fun with it, perhaps share that on social media, because, my blood was boiling when I was listening to it. I'm sure all of you, you are kind of really ticked off listening to it as well. So share it on social media. Any final thoughts, Ben, as we bring this to a close?
Yeah, I would highly recommend, even if it's not a pattern, right? Where what I commonly see is that from time to time, a lot of practices are not seeing a consistent pattern with these denials. But from time to time, you do get denials on crowns, as an example, where the insurance carrier disagrees with you on saying that, well, that was not necessarily something that we agreed with. But if in your clinical recommendation that if any other dentist would have looked at this case and agreed with you that, yes, a crown restoration is totally appropriate, I would have done the same thing. So if your clinical diagnosis can be backed up, right? At that point, what I would recommend is calling out the insurance carrier for changing the definition of a crown, right? Which is against their agreement with the American Dental Association. So here's a new thing that a lot of you might not be aware of, is the codes, the CDT codes, current dental terminology. Those are actually written and owned by the American Dental Association. As an insurance industry, they have no choice but to use the codes in an effort to understand how to process benefits for patients, right? So the insurance companies actually lease the CDT codes from the American Dental Association, and within that leasing agreement, they agree to not change the code definitions. And if you're a member of the American Dental Association, when you accuse an insurance carrier of changing the code definitions, you can actually contact the ADA and ask for the email address of one of their attorneys in the compliance department, right? And you copy those people on the email complaints, or even CC them on the letters that go out to the insurance carriers when you're accusing them of changing the codes. The American Dental Association gets on it immediately, and they do their own investigation, right? So they're not a government body, but contractually they're protected in the sense that insurance plans cannot change the code definitions because they agree to that in a contract, right? So that's my final piece of advice. There's a lot more that we can discuss on this issue, but fight even the smallest, even the one denials here and there. Don't write those off. If you feel like you're right, fight them simply because, now that we have this knowledge that Dr. Shelburne shared, that the insurance carriers share data, the practices that engage in aggressive appeals and consistent appeals, those are the ones that I see have less abuse on these issues over time.
Interesting.
It's almost like if you let somebody punch you in the face, they'll keep punching you in the face.
Oh, yes.
That's exactly what it is.
Best way to fight bullies is, and
Punch
I don't
back.
advocate violence, but
Right.
sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, right? What's that? Oh gosh, there's a movie about bullies. Well, there's several of them. One with Harrison Ford, and
Oh, that sounds familiar.
yeah, it was about 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
anyway, it's just like they do a space program, and this kid gets bullied, and he is told the best way to stop a bully is to punch back. You got to defend yourself. That's
Sure.
self-defense at that point. And he does that. And guess what happens to the bullies?
They stop.
They leave him alone because now this kid's a threat. It's like, man, this kid can punch hard. Holy smokes, my tooth is missing from this kid. They think twice about.
In high school, I was on the wrestling team, and it only took one fight to, somebody bothering me. It only took one fight to show that nobody would ever bother me again.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Sometimes that's all it takes is just to send a message.
yep. Oh, I'm not messing around with that kid.
Yeah.
He's psycho.
Defend yourself hard. And you teach them,
Yeah.
look, I'm not going to be pushed around.
Yeah. Awesome episode. Hopefully you found this useful. If our listeners could go and send us an awesome love letter review, like Naren always says, go on to the podcast, wherever you're listening to us, on iTunes or wherever, leave us a review. We really enjoyed this episode today. Ben, thank you for your useful information and your tips for the industry. With that said, we hope you guys have a rocking day.